Hi there, welcome to another STAEDTLER art session with Riaan. In today's session we will be drawing a woman standing in a door and using STAEDTLER's tradition pencils to do this.
If you have any questions, please feel free to email me or use the chat box during the live session.
We will start this drawing on ordinary printing paper, where we can erase and correct as much as we like. Erasing too much on our drawing paper will ruin the surface. If you look to the right of the screen, you'll see Riaan demonstrating the basics of a human anatomy and a simplified method for drawing hands. Once you are done with the underlying structure, it will be easier to add the detail to it. Drawing humans are difficult, so make sure to practice as much as you can. The more you study the anatomy, the easier it will become to draw humans. Before we trace our sketch to our drawing paper, we need to mark the broad outlines of the figure on the back. Then use a 6B pencil to fill these outlined areas. The filled area on the back will act like a carbon copy when we start to trace our drawing. Hold the paper firmly in place and use the H pencil, which is the hardest, to start the tracing process. To make this easier, use masking tape to secure the drawing in place. Press firmly when you trace to make sure the sketch transfers to the drawing paper. Once we are done with the tracing, we can start shading the woman. Look carefully at your reference image when you start to shade. There is no magic here. It all comes down to how well you observe and mimic the values you see in your reference. Rather spend a minute or two studying the reference before you start to draw. You will see that Riaan draws the shades very dark in the beginning, but you may want to build it up in layers. Just be careful not to make the midtones too dark. You can always add shading later on. Start with the most important or difficult parts first. It makes starting over less painful if you make a mistake in the beginning and keep the rough sketch close. Sometimes you will need to sharpen your pencil without a sharpener. Place the pencil lead almost flat on a separate piece of paper and roll it while you scratch sideways to sharpen the tip into a fine point. The face is well lit and most of the shades are rather dark, but take note of the subtle shades like the one running down the side of the nose. Don't overdo the midtones. Sometimes it is better to leave it a bit lighter. Fill the background with very dark shading. We will use a 6B pencil later on to make it as dark as possible. Just be careful not to go over the lines of your figure. It is sometimes better to stop just on the edge of the lines. Hands can be tricky to draw and shading them just as difficult. Try to simplify the shapes you see. It is wise not to think of it as hands, but as a collection of shapes. After you have successfully completed the face and the hands, the rest should be easy enough. Look carefully at the reference when you draw her dress. Look at the shapes the folds make and shade them lightly at first. When you are happy with the shapes, you can start to add darker shading to them. Please note that although she is wearing a white dress, how dark the shading of it is in the shadows. Some parts are almost black. The secret is to keep the highlights as light as possible, and the correct mid-tone values will make sure that even the black shading on the dress will look like it is still a white dress. Use the 6B pencil to fill in the black behind the woman. Be careful not to accidentally go over any of the lines. You will not be able to erase it to the white paper again. To make the black appear like a door or window, Riaan added a wooden beam at the bottom. It is never a sin to simplify a drawing. You don't have to draw everything that you see in your reference image. As artists, we can decide what will be the main elements we want to portray. We hope you enjoyed this drawing session with us. Please feel free to share your art with us on social media, and if you have any questions, hit the email button below and Riaan will get back to you as soon as possible.